He had told her over and over that there was no money for their wedding, that they would have to wait, that Simple would have to do. But when she stumbled across a bank statement hidden in his drawer, she couldn't believe her eyes. There, tucked away like a secret treasure, was an account worth far more than she could have imagined. And in that moment, everything she thought she knew about him began to crumble. Hello, my friends. I am Olivia, and this is Olivia's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I remember the first time I realized how much I loved him. Not in some grand cinematic gesture, but in a quiet, ordinary Thursday morning when he made me coffee just the way I liked it, and then kissed my forehead without saying a word. My life had always been predictable, neat lines and safe choices. And then there was Daniel. Messy laughter, endless curiosity, and the kind of warmth that made even my stubborn heart soften. We had been together for 3 years, and though I loved him fiercely, there was always a tiny, gnawing worry I could never fully ignore. Daniel had a way of slipping around the edges of honesty, never with malice, but in small ways that left me second-guessing. When we started talking about marriage, his eyes would dart away whenever we mentioned the wedding budget. "We'll figure it out later," he said. "I don't want to rush anything." At first, I trusted him. But as the months passed, the later never came. I had a need, one I didn't like to admit even to myself, the need to feel secure, to know that the person I was entrusting my life to could truly be my partner in every sense. I wasn't asking for extravagance, just honesty. Yet every conversation about money ended with a sigh, a half smile, a gentle insistence that he had nothing to give. The day I found the statement started like any other Saturday. The sun was soft against the kitchen window, and the smell of fresh bread from the bakery downstairs drifted up through our apartment. Daniel was humming in the shower, and I decided to tidy up. I opened his side of the desk drawer to put away some paperwork, and there it was, a folder I had never seen before. Curiosity pricked at me, a mix of caution and anticipation, until I finally pulled it out. I froze. The bank statement was real, glowing under the morning light like a confession waiting to be read. My hands trembled. My heart pounded so loudly I thought Daniel would hear it, even through the shower. The number at the top of the page wasn't just enough to cover a wedding. It was enough to cover a life we hadn't even dared to imagine. And in that same moment, I felt a crushing mix of emotions: betrayal, confusion, fear, and an overwhelming sense of awe. I wanted to ask him. I wanted to shout. I wanted to understand why he had kept this from me, why he had painted our future in scarcity when there had been abundance all along. But as I lifted my eyes from the paper, I caught him stepping out of the bathroom, towel slung low, unaware of the storm I was holding. And just as he smiled, rubbing water from his hair, I realized this secret was bigger than either of us, and the moment I opened my mouth to speak, everything was about to change. I swallowed hard, the paper still clutched in my hand. Daniel's smile hit me like a blade, familiar and warm, yet now edged with a secret I couldn't ignore. "Daniel, what is this?" My voice was barely more than a whisper, yet it felt deafening in the quiet apartment. He froze mid-step, the towel slipping slightly at his waist, and his eyes, those warm, steady eyes I had trusted with everything, flickered with a strange mix of surprise and panic. "Olivia," he started, voice trembling, but he didn't finish. My heart hammered, demanding answers, demanding honesty, demanding the truth that had been hidden for so long. I could feel 1,000 tiny questions flooding my mind, each one sharper than the last. Why didn't he tell me? Why pretend we couldn't afford a simple wedding when he had everything he needed? And worse, had I misjudged him all these years? All those nights I cried, worrying about our future, thinking we were scraping by, had he known the whole time that we weren't? Daniel ran a hand over his wet hair, pacing for a fraction of a second, then stopping to meet my gaze. "It's not what you think," he said finally, voice low and serious. My chest tightened. "Not what I think?" I repeated, incredulous. "Daniel, it's a bank statement. You have all of this money, and you told me we couldn't afford a wedding. I don't understand." His shoulders slumped and he looked away, staring at the floor as if it held the answers he couldn't give me. "I wanted to tell you," he admitted finally, and the words sounded heavier than any confession I'd ever heard. "I really did, but I wanted you to love me for me, not for what I have." My mind screamed. I wanted to understand, to forgive, but the betrayal cut deep. For you to love you? Or for you to control me? To make me worry about things that weren't even real? The anger in my voice startled me. I hadn't meant for it to be so loud, but I couldn't hold it back. Daniel took a step toward me, eyes glistening. "I was afraid," he said. "Afraid that if you knew, you'd think I was showing off. Afraid that the person you loved would change. I thought I was protecting us, protecting you." I wanted to shake him, to demand the truth, to scream until my voice broke. And yet, beneath the anger, there was something else. A pang of understanding, of the man I thought I knew, flawed but trying, hiding love behind a wall he built for the wrong reasons. My hands were shaking, the paper crumpled in my grip, and I realized I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't step back from. I needed to know everything, and yet I feared what I would discover. Why didn't you trust me?" I whispered, my throat tight. Daniel's gaze softened, and he reached for my hand, tentative, as if even the simplest touch could shatter us both. And in that instant, as his fingers brushed mine, the weight of the secret, the betrayal, and the love tangled into a knot so tight I felt like I might suffocate. I looked down at the bank statement again, and the numbers that had seemed so impossible now felt like a test of us, of trust, of everything we had ever built together. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "There's more you need to see, more than just this account." I froze, my heart skipping a beat. "More?" I asked, voice trembling. Daniel nodded, his eyes dark with a mixture of guilt and urgency. He turned toward the desk, moving with the kind of careful deliberation that made my stomach twist. "I should have told you everything from the start," he said, his hands hovering over the folder as if the papers themselves carried the weight of a confession. "What do you mean?" My voice was sharp, more from fear than anger now. The ordinary world I had known, our cozy apartment, our simple plans, our quiet weekends, suddenly felt like a fragile illusion ready to shatter. Daniel drew a deep breath, his gaze locking with mine. "That account, it's not just savings. It's inheritance. Family money I never intended to touch without understanding myself first." His words hit me like a thunderclap. Inheritance? Why would that matter so much that he'd hide it from me? I thought you were struggling. I thought we were building this together, slowly, with what we had," I whispered, stepping closer, desperate for clarity. "Everything I worried about, all those sleepless nights, you knew?" He nodded, his throat tight, and I could see the tension in every line of his body. "I did, and I hated lying to you. Every day, I hated it. But I wanted you to see me for who I am, not for what I could buy you." His voice cracked, revealing the raw vulnerability he usually kept buried behind jokes and smiles. I wanted to reach out, to hold him, to forgive, But the wound of betrayal still throbbed. You didn't trust me. To share your life with me fully, I said softly. How am I supposed to know I can trust you now? He swallowed hard, then opened the folder fully, revealing more documents than I ever expected. Legal papers, statements, even plans for charitable foundations he had quietly started. I've kept all of this secret, Olivia, not to control you, not to manipulate you, but because I wasn't ready to let it define us. I wanted our love to be real before anything else interfered. My mind was spinning, caught between disbelief, awe, and a lingering sting of betrayal. The man I had loved for years had been living a double life, not with deceit in the cruel sense, but with a carefully hidden truth he thought I wasn't ready for. And now, standing here with the sun casting a pale glow across the apartment, I realized that nothing could ever be the same again. Daniel's hand trembled as he reached for mine. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, he said. I only hope that you'll see that every choice I made, even the secrets, was meant to protect us, to protect what we have. The room felt impossibly quiet, my breathing loud in the space between us. My gaze returned to the statement, to the evidence of wealth and security I never imagined he possessed. And in that instant, I understood. This was more than money. It was a measure of his fear, his love, and the chasm between intention and action. I wanted to speak, to demand explanations, to break down every wall he had built, but before I could, Daniel whispered, almost to himself, "There's still one thing, one part you don't know, and it will change everything." I held my breath, my hands still trembling as I stared at Daniel. "One part I don't know?" I echoed, a chill running down my spine. His eyes softened, but there was a weight there I had never seen before, a mixture of shame, hope, and desperation. "Yes," he said, "and it's the part that explains why I've been so careful, so secretive, why I never told you the full truth." My heart pounded, a drum in the quiet apartment. I wanted to step back, to brace myself for a revelation that might shatter everything. But instead, I stayed rooted, my need for honesty overpowering my fear. Daniel took a deep breath, and the words spilled out, slow and deliberate. "The money, the account, it's enough for anything we could dream of. But I've been hiding it because I was waiting for the right moment to prove something, prove that our love could exist without it, that you'd stay because of me, not my inheritance. And I was wrong. I should have trusted you from the start." Tears blurred my vision. Anger, relief, love, and frustration collided inside me like waves against jagged rocks. "You don't get it," I whispered. "It's not about the money. It's about trust, about honesty, about sharing everything. Your fears, your dreams, your life. And you didn't." He nodded slowly, voice breaking. "I know, and I can't take back the secrecy. I can only ask for a chance to make it right. I want us to start over, truly. No lies, no half-truths, no secrets between us." I looked at him, at the man I loved so fiercely, and yet barely recognized in this moment. And then I looked at the papers, the proof of a life he had hidden, a life he thought would separate us, but which now revealed the depth of his love and fear intertwined. It was dizzying, overwhelming, and yet somehow, beneath the chaos of emotions, I felt the pulse of hope. I reached for his hand, slowly, testing the waters of reconciliation. His fingers closed around mine, warm and steady, a promise unspoken yet palpable. "Can we really start over?" I asked softly, voice barely above a whisper. Daniel smiled, a small, tentative curve of his lips that carried all the vulnerability and courage I had ever loved in him. Yes, he said, if you want to, if we both try. No more secrets. The tension in my chest began to ease, the storm of betrayal giving way to cautious hope. I realized that love wasn't just about shared dreams or secure futures. It was about the courage to face the truth, even when it hurts, and the willingness to forgive and rebuild. And in that moment, as sunlight streamed across the apartment, glinting off the crumpled bank statement that had started this storm, I felt a shift inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp and raw, but so was the love, stronger and steadier than ever before. I squeezed his hand, a silent vow passing between us. We would navigate the mess, the secrets, the fears, together. Because love wasn't about perfection. It was about truth, trust, and the bravery to stay, even when everything seemed uncertain. And for the first time in months, I allowed myself to breathe, to hope, and to believe that maybe, just maybe, this could be our beginning, not our ending.